This is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, and you're watching a review of the Flash movie. I have seen the Flash movie. Yeah. It's kind of warm in here. Yeah, so it was the Flashpoint movie. Last of the... Well, there actually is an Aquaman 2 coming out, even though that got all mired in controversy because the lady in it is going to be... was divorced from this other actor, and they were having a divorce thing going on when that was in production. So she might not even be in the movie, the red-headed lady. So, but in the Flash, this one had controversy a year ago because Ezra Miller, they're kind of he's kind of weird, and he was doing weird things in different states and Hawaii and stuff, and Georgia and other places, getting himself in trouble. The movie was in production, and they had to market the movie sort of with kind of ignoring what was going on with his controversies and issues, and which you can look up. Their issues. I'm not going to go into that. They had to market it as more of a he meets Batman from '89 universe. Yeah, so instead of it's the Flash with himself, because only somebody that pretentious go back to find himself. It would be like if they did a Cillian story with Holy Cat and Cal Hazel, same universe. Just decided twins, or a Data and Lore episode, kind of like that. Yeah. So we have the Flash. Too many people have already talked about it online. They've given it, either they liked it or they didn't. I think Angry Joe Rants kind of half liked it, and John Campia's show thought it was almost the best thing that he'd ever seen, but he says that about all movies like that. He thought that Morbius was going to be the best thing he'd ever seen, so I don't know. Across the Spider-Verse isn't as good as Into the Spider-Verse, but it's fine. It's not the best thing I've ever seen. But in the case of The Flash, it's a different director than the Snyder version. So it was a little more lighthearted in parts than the Snyder one would have been. I don't recognize the director, and don't bother correcting it in the comments. I don't really care. I guess the background of The Flash. I'm not familiar with the new TV show either. I was familiar with the 90s TV show, The Flash. But this is quite a different universe than that. And yeah, so we have this. Basically, the Flash's father is in jail because they think he killed his mother 10 years earlier, just before the Zod attack, the beginning of Man of Steel. Basically, in that episode, they decide to. He's early Flash back then. He just gets his powers, and he's depressed about this, so he wants to go back in time and correct it and reverse the timeline so that he's out there. So it's a multiverse immediately. Anyway, so we kind of know that, though. We've got the Batman and the Joker, Elseworld stories like the Joker, and Long Dark Halloween stories like some of the Nolan movies, and the Nolan Batman Begins, and also the Batman, which was also Long Dark Halloween. So there's been a lot of that going on. So yeah, 20 years apart for those two. The other Batmans are all over the place. Warner Brothers does better with Batman movies than it does other ones. Well, Campia thinks that the Cavill movies are the best movies ever. Superman, No, the first Christopher Reeve Donner movies are the best ones. But still. Superman 1 and 2, back in the 70s, in the early 80s. They haven't topped that. They tried, they haven't topped that. The new ones are a remake. This one's kind of a remake of a remake. It has elements of the well, the Snyderverse, obviously, the Flashpoint story, the Flashpoint comic books. It addresses that to an extent. He causes the Flashpoint, actually. It's an evil version of himself out there, and that evolves, but it's actually his other self. So yeah, we have yeah, he's threatening his other self. Yeah. So he goes back in time and prevents the mother from losing the pasta, from leaving the pasta behind and then having to go back to the store again. The father goes back to the store and she gets killed. So he goes back and he puts the pasta there, pasta sauce, so she takes it. And then the timeline is changed, but he ends up popping out earlier than he should have, but in the other timeline. Yeah, because timelines work that way there. And when he gets there, he discovers that he's actually in the Batman 89 universe, which doesn't really make sense. He raced metahumans somehow by doing the pasta can thing. So he teams up with his 18-year-old self, and he's 28, to attempt to, in the story, so he attempts to get his flash powers, gives them to himself by accident, and loses his powers, so they're going to go find Batman 89, who has been a hermit for some time and lost all his money, I guess. But all of his stuff is still updated, and his tech is still advanced. He's just hiding out in Wayne Manor, and lets him in. Small skirmish, but then lets him in. It explains all about the time travel and the universe being affected, convoluting the whole timeline thing from the Marvel series, saying it's more like less than branching trees and events. It's more like a spaghetti noodle dish and throwing stuff in the spaghetti creepypasta. It's more like creepypasta. Yeah. And it's all mixed in. That still doesn't make sense. They wanted to convolute out of the thing. They even mentioned the Back to the Future that's mentioned. They mentioned it in that universe. Eric Stoltz is the Back to the Future. So just to be weird. They have other characters that are introduced as a gag in the apartment of the 18-year-old, but it's not explained who they are. So the audience seemed to know who they were. So I guess they were from earlier. They were like people in the workforce earlier, I guess. It wasn't really too clear on that. Could have missed it. Yeah. Oh well. Don't bother commenting and saying, "Oh yeah, it was this guy." What do you know? I didn't really care all that much. I wanted to see it just to see it. See what all the fuss was about Ezra Miller. Yeah, and of course he's not going to address his issues in there. Some of the fans were thinking, oh, wait. At one point they mentioned that somebody gets rescued. The Flash earlier on, briefly get rescued. There's a silly, kind of a goofy scene with, like, there's a hospital maternity ward that's on the 10th floor of a building, and the babies fall down, and he goes and catches all of them and catches one in a microwave, but it's not on. Catches everybody and brings them down to the ground. And there was the nurse is why would they be on the 10th floor? It's kind of weird. It's what kind of screwy hospital is that? So they go up to the thing and they're like, yeah, Gotham is apparently across the river from Metropolis or New York. So they're like, it's like New York and maybe Newark, I guess. That's what they're. Something like that. Or maybe Pennsylvania or something. I don't know which way they go. It's Pittsburgh or something. But yeah, something like that. Yeah. So we have Yeah, the goofy scene and explaining about how the timeline works, and yeah, it cheesy CGI babies floating around. They're clearly not babies. Through the air. They really liked that scene, so they played it again in the end credits. Um, yeah, why were they? And they make a joke in this story about healthcare for the Justice League. But of course, this story was done over a year ago, so they just finished it. So the gag there of them having PSTD from fighting crime is funny, but it's not meant to be a nod to Ezra Miller being kind of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs sometimes, doing weird stuff, potentially illegal stuff, allegedly, in other states. So it's not. It's not that. It's in the script, and it's not that. They're clearly the superheroes in the DC universe all have issues and are crazy, including Batman. But yes, so they find Hermit Batman, who then shaves himself and cleans himself up and get Batman. And they take the Batwing to go find the Kryptonian because Zod has showed up from the other timeline with the World Engine. He wants to destroy the Earth. So it's behind the scenes of Man of Steel, but without Man of Steel, Woman of Steel. So we have Supergirl, which some of the complainers were complaining about. But actually, the actress did a good job playing Supergirl, more so than the modern remake of Supergirl. They do homage the older Supergirl shows as well, and Christopher Reeve at one point, and the black and white one, and an older Flash, and the Flash 1990, and all that. They even reference Nicolas Cage in fighting a spider, a Superman, giant spider, from the Kevin Smith thing. Kevin Smith didn't think that up. Kevin Smith just wrote about it, talked about it. That was the guy that did Wild Wild West, the director of Wild Wild West, that thought that up and wanted to have a giant spider in his movie. It was that guy. So it wasn't Kevin Smith. He was just talking about, this is the person I met who was talking about it. That's what he said. He said, I met this person. So, mechanical spider. And so there's a cameo thing. There's lots of cameo things that go by quickly in the multiverse thing, because they couldn't make it look like the Marvel one from Loki and the other ones. So Multiverse of Madness, although it turns out being like the Multiverse of Madness, because basically he's Wanda. He's trying to change the future. He's Wanda. They're Wanda. And trying to change the future. And it doesn't work, because every time they try to save Supergirl from Zod killing her and Batman from being killed, it messes up the timeline even more. And basically the bad guy wins in that universe because she's supposed to. Just is messed up. So spoilers. Yeah, who cares? But yeah, at least it wasn't dark in those places when they were in the Megaverse, because some of the early DC movies, it would be all dark, and the Marvel ones too. They would make it physically look dark out in the shot. It would be like really goofy and hard to follow. Yeah, so he has to go back and put the pasta back and return to his universe. Although they never explain how he goes the speed of light and goes back in time, but they never explain how he knows where he's going. Is he just guessing where he's going? Because he can end up anywhere. And he went. Maybe it's more like the multiverse of Transtech and the Ultra Transformers Mush, where you don't realize you're in the alternate universe until the end. It's at the end of Lexicons that they pull that particular story out of that in my story, and they do that with Flash as well. So there's an ending that's a twist ending. I won't give it away. That they actually something's still off. Of course, this is one of the last of the Bayverse ones, since James Gunn is over there at DC now, at Warner Brothers, and he's not going to do this universe anymore. He's going to do something else. Superman Legacy and something else. I can't mention too much about that. But yes. I guess Aquaman 2 is still coming out, even though it should be the last of them, technically. There was an ad for, there was a commercial for Blue Beetle and a number of other things. It looked cooler this time, but it's kind of similar, dark, sort of goofy character, similar to Moon Knight as well. But Moon Knight crossed with Spider-Man with the Venom, with the Venom thing stuck to him. It's a robot in this case, like a robot Gundam Guyver suit thing. I don't know much about the Blue Beetle, although apparently the kids at the church think it's going to be cool. So I don't know. I'm not familiar with it. I was familiar with the Flash, Superman, Batman. Green Lantern was kind of cheesy. I don't familiar with that. So, I had an idea for a Superman Justice League remake. No one mentioned it. I'll mention it here. Yeah, there was going to be a Justice League remake. Maybe they're going to do it. I don't know. But it would be really cool if they did it, since they're showing all these multiverses in this story. And it cements that there could be a story like that. Sort of the animated jingle song from back in the day, the Super Friends song, right? And it's just like this funky looking Capitol building with this rounded top thing shows in the distance, and the chill goes up your spine as the score from the 70s cartoon goes dun 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 dun, and then they show the silhouettes. Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, but he's orange. Should be blonde hair. and Cyborg, and Martian Manhunter. And Cyborg looks better than. They didn't do that in this one, but they should. But that would be cool. That'd be so cool. Justice League, but fun Justice League. They kind of implied that the service dog at the end was Crypto, but I don't think it was supposed to be. It was stupid. Crypto the super dog. I've seen that cartoon too. It's weird. There was like a 90s version of that too. Strange. Crypto the super dog. Yes. But yeah, they were gonna do a Wonder Twins movie, but we ended up not doing that. So, no. I'm not gonna do that. Yeah. Then. But we have pitched the Fantastic Four and over there at Marvel. Just kidding. But we also pitched I wrote a treatment. Well, not a script, but a little blurb, and I was thinking premise, and I was thinking, for that, you're gonna introduce the whole, the Marvel Cinematic Universe to the Four, right? Well, then you gotta have two post-credit sequences. One, they find a pit, and you think it's gonna be another Thor thing. Instead, they find a pit. In the pit is a silver surfboard stuck in the pit. They're like, oh, call in the S.H.I.E.L.D. people. We've got another one. Oh, it's a silver surfer. Yes. That'd be cool to see the surfboard. Somebody's going to come looking for this. We're in trouble. Oh. And then the other premise is that you see this girl feeding squirrels. She's feeding squirrels. The park. She looks up and she smiles at the camera, and she's got the squirrel teeth. It's Squirrel Girl. Yes, awesome. That would be awesome. There's two posters. Now that's not in this movie. That's just my 3 ideas from last year, from during the pandemic. And now you know. So if they do a Squirrel Girl thing, you'll know where it came from. It came from Kal Kat. I'm not sure who they would cast. They cast her in the church. That'd be cool. I know a few people that would play the Squirrel Girl. Come over here and here. People make this great Squirrel Girl. Yeah. So, but I'm not working for Paramount or Star or anything. not working for Disney. I'm not working for DC either. These are just sort of, Anyway, so the Flash, it was DC does better with its cartoons, so it just is like their cartoons are fine. They even did a Long Dark Halloween adaptation during the pandemic, which was that the two-parter, miniseries. But geez, I've already done it. Oh yeah, it's Elseworld. As some other people have pointed out, Joker and the Batman are Elseworld. Kind of the Flash movie could be considered Elseworld too, but it's Flashpoint. Now, I did see parts of their version of their live-action adaptation of Crisis on Infinite Earths. That was cool. They did that right. There was like other versions of the Batmans and Supermans and stuff in that. And there was an excellent Lex Luthor. They got a guy that was doing Lex Luthor. He's looking in the magic book and he's all like, I've got them now. He's playing it just the right way. Just subtly evil, not over the top. Lex Luthor was not over the top unless he was mad. No, when he's thinking things out, he's plotting and secret and sneaky. He's not mad yet. Until he gets defeated. But yes, not like the one in the Snyderverse where he was way too hyperactive. He was acting like the Riddler. Like that makes sense. Be the Riddler, but he wasn't the Riddler. Wrong guy. You got it wrong. It's sort of like when Marvel guys did the Shazam movie with The Rock, and nobody was familiar with that. So they saw that and they're like, oh yeah, The Rock is going to play it for years. Because they had already introduced the other Shazam, so it was confusing. The Black Adam movie. And The Rock. Apparently, The Rock didn't want to be the main villain in Shazam 2. He wanted to be in his own movie. Kind of should have been. Although, seeing the lady from Voyager as a bad guy, and Discovery as the bad guy was funny in the movie. Michelle Yeoh, and having her reappear in the Transformers movie, also cool. As the Air Razor. Although in the Transformers remake, it's silly that the Dark Energon would actually infect her. Probably wouldn't have. She's from another dimension or something. Beast Planet or Animoth or whatever. Beast Planet. Yeah, they're from the Trans-Tech time. And and Primary as an ape. A male ape, which should be bathing ape would be funny. An homage to something else. Anyway, so the Flash. I can't say it was bad. There were parts that were generally funny. There were some good jokes. It was fine. Certainly more lighthearted than expected. In parts, certainly the messed up ending was kind of fun, but as a dark comedy kind of thing, but action picture. I'm not going to stomp on it. 3 stars. Better than average. Okay. It was on a par with Man of Steel, actually, which was okay. James Cavill wasn't the best ever. It was fine. It was one of the last church movie night things they did back in the day. It was Man of Steel. 10 years ago. But I don't know why they don't do this anymore. The Flash. Fine. Does have that controversy about Ezra Miller that kind of throws a damper on it. In the same way that Fantastic Beasts 3 was heavily lauded as awful because J.K. Rowling turned out to be awful. So, yeah. Kind of the same idea. It's like, do you see this movie because you just want to? Or do you see this movie because you're curious whether Ezra Miller would go insane during it? Well, he does. Part of him does, anyway. And it's just... And there's just, yeah, that's not how time travel works in either of those universes. I think if time travel worked efficiently, it would be, it would probably be multiphasic and dimensional because you couldn't have literally the grandfather paradox or the butterfly effect. It would be more like, it'd be more like you skew into another timeline entirely, and you'd just be there. And you couldn't actually affect that other timeline. It keeps it into the next one, and the next one. Somewhere in between is what Marvel and DC are doing. Yeah, if the DC timeline looked like that, then every time they turned left or right, they'd be in a different timeline. It doesn't. Yeah, it's. And what was Wonder Woman doing while everything was all blowing up in the first scene? I was just out, hanging out. Probably pining for that boyfriend that I conjured out of nowhere into the body of that other guy, that other movie. Yeah, about that. Yeah, that movie sucked. Wonder Woman 1984 was bad. Genuinely bad. And some people were complaining about the special effects in this one, whereas they were cartoonish, but they always kind of were, which is why Zack Snyder lit them darkly. Because he could tell they were cartoonish. They weren't very good. So I will say that this movie, like, okay, yeah, some of the CG doesn't work. It's funny that some of the CG glints off of Supergirl and Batman and some of the others in weird ways that doesn't look right against the green screen. They probably had to, like, fix it in post. It's probably what took over a year to finish it. Because they're like, there's green screen splotches on everybody. Everybody. We gotta go back and fix that. That's probably what happened. They're like, oh crap, the effects look really terrible in parts. I know, put more exploding things next to it. Put more flash and burns and stuff flying through the air. That'll disguise it. Just, no. Blow it up to 70mm giant screen. You can see it. Yeah, it's all. You just put those effects in there because you were trying to hide something. Yeah. At least with the Marvel movies, they try to put the visuals in the same spots so they at least cover it up somewhat. Ooh. I think the trick with the Marvel movies, though, is much of the backdrops are completely green screen and a big roundabout thing. And I think with the Schneider movies and the other ones, their green screen is big too, but they don't use it as much. They do more outdoorsy stuff or outdoorsy looking stuff, and so it doesn't. It looks faker because they're actually trying to match the different aspects of the. It looks a little off. Still a little off. Yeah. That was especially obvious in Wonder Woman, the first one. And the third act was especially cheesy, and they had to make it darker to make it look like the third act. They did the same thing in Wonder Woman 1984 because the cheetah's costume looked terrible, so they'd hide it. They were like, let's have her fight in the dark. No. The proper way to do a day for night shot like that. If you're gonna do that, you have to light it properly so that your foreground characters are in the shot in day for night. I want to demonstrate how to do that properly. This is room has these three lights over here. I want to make it look like it's like evening in here. See, like I'm well lit on this side. I could turn off only this one and this one and cast the light this way so that you still see me in the dark, but it looks more menacing. I figured that out. Just from doing animated Transformer movies. Figured that out. Come on, you guys make $1 billion movies. Turn some lights and move them around. That's all I need to do. Here I am in the darkly lit. You can still see me. Yeah, you can still see that I'm there in the shot. I'm right there. And then you can, so then you can turn this light off. And then It's really weird. Then you turn this light off, and then you throw the light this way, and it could be like the other reverse flash, like. Yeah, so there you go. See, I'm in the dark in the room, but you can still see me. I'm still visible. There's light being cast in the foreground. The light's pale in the background. See? Come on. I'm a blogger on the internet with hundreds of subscribers, and I figured that out. I have made thousands of videos, though, so there's that. I know how to light the room after doing all those videos for the channel. But yeah, and fan films. Yeah, so if you light your character foreground in the background, then you bring in your other character, like, he's a robot, you put him in the foreground, and he becomes lit. If you want to make the foreground robot look like he's like on his shoulder, yeah, so there you go. Oh yeah. Zoom. Yeah, he ran funny in that movie. Anyway, lights. Yeah, so there's your little lesson on lighting a room. Yeah, it's not day for night. It's not night for day. The room was a little... The only thing is these walls are pink because they were mom's room. So they're pink walls underneath the other ones. And they don't match, so yeah, it does make everything look strange, but it's like a green screen but in reverse. It's pink. It's the opposite of green screen. Pink screen. Pink screen. It's kind of sounds dirty. A pink screen. Yeah, so that's how you light it. Well, you didn't figure that out. You still see me. Yeah. Anyway, Flash.